We've got a lot. My gosh, today is a busy news day. You know, it's been kind of slow. We could take our time, let the news marinate. But today, we got a lot of stuff. I'll take your phone calls as well. And again, please text the word Army to 33777. Fill out the form. I don't need your phone number, but your email address, your zip code as we're going around the country. I want to be able to invite you. Now, we have to begin today with the Kamala Harris word salad. I'm going to go with the long clip first. I might as well. I might as well go with the long clip first. So she sat down with Oprah Winfrey in a roundtable discussion that really didn't get a lot of eyeballs on it. I was kind of shocked by how few people seemed to engage, and there wasn't a large crowd present either. It was a very controlled format with Oprah Winfrey asking some softball questions and some audience members asking questions. And I got to tell you, one of the most remarkable parts of it was how even with Oprah Winfrey trying to bail out Kamala Harris seemed incapable of answering the basic questions. It was rather wild. And she got a question from a guy. Now, this is lengthy. We may not play it all, but you need to hear the question. And you need to hear her attempt at an answer that provided so much word salad, these people have enough roughage, they'll never be constipated again mentally. It just wild. Listen to this sort of stuff.
When you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question.
Pause. Keep in mind there, she's being asked specific way to secure the border. Specifics he wants, specifics.
My background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people.
That's not specific.
Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill. And here's what that border security bill would have done. It would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. Let me tell you, those border agents are working around the clock. It would have just been about giving them some support and relief, which is probably why the border agents actually endorsed the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl. And I'm looking at people from all over the country here, so I don't need to tell the folks who are watching this what fentanyl has done to families, to kids in our country, and the need to take seriously stemming the flow coming into our country and addressing that extraordinary and tragic issue in terms of its effect. The bill would have allowed us to have more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations.
Where are your
and it
policy
would have been part
specifics?
of the solution. And Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why? Why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Okay, all right, Kamala. So it goes on from there, and she literally offers no specifics. Again, this is the question. This is the question.
When you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
What would be your specific steps to strengthen the border? She doesn't answer the question. She attacks Donald Trump for this particular piece of blocking a particular piece of legislation, but she didn't answer the question. It's remarkable, but that's not the only question she couldn't answer. There's another one she was asked about, the economy. You know, the economy is the #1 issue. And they piped in a couple via video to ask Kamala Harris this question.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that. And there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries.
What are you going to do to bring down costs? Well, we're going to bring down the cost of groceries. How? She never got to that. She never got to that. What are you going to do to fix our economy, Kamala Harris? Well, there's this thing. It's called a unicorn. And unicorns are, well, they're mammals and they're cloven feet. And so they contribute to global warming, but their farts are powerful. We are going to harness the farts of the unicorns to give us clean, renewable energy, and that will then provide for us clean, renewable energy food sources, because the byproduct of the unicorn fart is the clover in the field, the four-leaf clover that attracts the unicorns and the leprechauns, and they will provide for us pots of gold in the fields as the cows are eating, and we will use the gold from the leprechauns derived from harnessing the power of the unicorn farts to solve everything. That is essentially what Kamala Harris's policy position is. Unicorn farts attracting leprechauns with pots of gold. That is her answer. It is remarkable. She had no substantive answers. Oprah Winfrey is trying to help her out, and she cannot be helped out of her word salad. And you know what the Democrats are doing? Hillary Clinton, there's no reason for me to subject any of you to Hillary Clinton, but she actually said, Donald Trump speaks in word salad. Really? Really? Donald Trump speaks in word salad? Kamala Harris is like romaine lettuce, iceberg lettuce, some sliced up carrots and tomatoes piled together with some ranch. Kamala Harris provides you enough refuge mentally that you will never be mentally constipated again. You just ingest her word salad and you will poop out thoughts for the rest of your life. That's what she does. She serves you up a word salad, gives you mental refuge. She had one moment of being a normal human being and apologized for it. If she was more like this, and by the way, Republicans are pointing out this line, this one exchange with Oprah Winfrey, and saying if she was just like this all the time, she could probably win. And the response of the left is, I can't believe she said that. Oh, and are you saying she's not a Marxist? No, we're not saying she's not a Marxist. We're just saying if she said a little more of this and a little less of that other stuff, she might win. This is it.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If
And I thought
somebody
that was
breaks in my
powerful.
house, they're getting shot.
Yes, I hear that. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that.
But
My staff will deal with that later.
Why shouldn't you? Yes, if someone breaks in my house, they're going to get shot. That is a normal human response. She's, I probably shouldn't have said that. If you had more of that, Kamala Harris, and less of we're going to connect the tie-ins of the unity of the systemic, holistic problems of America into the fundamental understanding of the unicorn fart to thereby derive the leprechaun pot of gold to be able to systemically and holistically solve the problems of systemic deregulation of the currency of the United States into something other than what it is to manifest a greater self so that we can be unburdened by the past. If she was more like that, she would probably win, less like the gobbledygook word salad. What is it with some of these people? And they're right. So here's something I have learned over time, particularly in dealing with dim-witted academics. They speak in convoluted word salad to mask a deficiency in intelligence. Ibram Kendi is a prime example. Ibram Kendi is the anti-racist guy. You ask him to define racism, he has to use the word racism to define what anti-racism is. And the rule of thumb for like third grade is when you're defining a word, you can't use the word. Define door. Well, a door is a door through which you enter and exit. No, you can't do that. What's a door? You not use the word door. He's incapable because he's not actually that smart. Kamala Harris uses word salads because she's not actually that smart. She's a rather vapid dimwit. It is remarkable. I just got a $20 bet if I could make a... No, I cannot, Emery. That would get me in trouble. There will be... No, I can't even say it on radio now. It'll get me in trouble. Just jokes about, well, Harrison, never mind. We won't go there because that'll get me in trouble. But to the point, Kamala Harris does toss around these word salads, and it's just absolutely something that you've got to focus on because they make no sense. You can interpret it yourself in the way you wish to interpret it, in ways that you derive your meaning, and it may not be what she means. It's very much like back in the day, people would pour their hopes and ambitions into Barack Obama. You would never actually get a sense of what Barack Obama truly believed because he would give you some convoluted phraseology. We are the change we've been waiting for, whatever the hell that line was. You didn't know if he was talking about you being a change agent or you found change in the couch, but you would pour your hopes and dreams into it. And she's trying to replicate that strategy. Not a coincidence. She's brought his team. And how is it playing for her out there? Well, here's Michigan.
Tommy, how are you feeling about the election? Who are you going to vote for and why?
I'm going to vote for Donald Trump this year. I am typically a Democrat. I've voted Democrat every year until Donald Trump ran for office. This year, in the past, I voted for Donald Trump. The reasons has been economical primarily. 3.5 years ago, I made more money. I paid less taxes. Gas prices were cheaper. Now, everything has tripled, including grocery prices.
There you have it. And what is Kamala Harris's solution? What is her solution? To be the change you've been looking for, to unbind us from the burdens of the past with a desire to bring down grocery prices by manifesting them lower in thought and process through the power of the unicorn fart and the leprechaun pot of gold. That is who the Democrats have decided to run for office. To her credit, she's been dealt a very bad hand, and she's been doing the best she can with it. And Republicans, just again, need to spend these 45 days focusing on the economy, the border, and crime. The economy, border, and crime. Because as she demonstrated so ably with Oprah Winfrey giving her an assist, she just has no answers to the questions. It's an open line Friday. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Although I got a lot to talk about this hour, so you may want to hold your phone calls until later. We'll get into the latest on Mark Robinson. We're just not there yet. At this moment, I need you to say a prayer for the UPS workers of America, including Valerie, who is the greatest of them all. She is our local UPS delivery driver, and she will be delivering my iPhone this afternoon. Like all UPS drivers in America today, the iPhones are being delivered, and UPS workers are all over. In fact, I'm downtown in my office. I saw a guy, UPS worker, going in this morning. I should have had him delivered to my office. I would have had it by now, because he was coming in and he had a pile of boxes. They were all iPhones, all of them iPhones. It's like every lawyer in my building is getting their iPhone right now, and I wasn't smart enough to get mine delivered to my office. It's being delivered to my house, and it's going to be tonight because I got to just as an aside, I have while I get frustrated oftentimes with UPS because I'm like at the very end of the delivery cycle, so our stuff shows up at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Our UPS driver, she busts her butt. It is the remarkable work ethic. In fact, I point to her regularly with my kids and say, that's the sort of work ethic you need to have. I don't know her well, but you see an older lady carrying these heavy packages to our house at 8 and 9 o'clock at night because the system in the world, particularly at Christmas, the amount of respect I have for FedEx and UPS workers and the postal workers as well. As much as I get frustrated with the post office, I mean, in the post office, they don't have air conditioning in these Jeeps. They're sweating and they're delivering the mail, but I mean, the UPS and the FedEx guys are handling these heavy packages. They do it every day, rain or shine. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the UPS and FedEx delivery personnel in the country who are doing this. And on a day like today, when you got the iPhone being delivered to literally millions of people are getting their iPhones, all of them today. It's a remarkable operation from Apple. In fact, a friend of mine tracked their planes. Their planes landed yesterday in Kentucky, and then UPS distributed everything from there all over the country for delivery today. It's just a remarkable operation, supply chain operation. All right, I got to move on, but first I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank. Old Glory Bank, they've sent me some, I'll remember next week. Let me tell you about my latest run-in with Old Glory Bank. I was given a gift, and it was some money. It was essentially a late birthday present. It wasn't much. I mean, it was less than $100. It was somebody that wanted to take me to lunch, and I don't like carrying cash with me. I keep my cards, and I was literally able to pull up my Old Glory app, find a retail location near where I was, take the cash, and it got deposited in my bank. It generated a QR code, took it to the clerk. They knew exactly what to do, scanned the QR code, credited my account with the money. It was remarkable, and no fee, by the way. It went in my bank account. The Old Glory Bank has been so innovative. My checking account has no fees. My savings account has no fees. I get a good interest rate on the savings account. OldGloryBank.com. You can get an account with them as well. It takes less than 8 minutes online. OldGloryBank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Hello there. Welcome. It is Erickson here across the United States. It is an open line Friday, but hold your calls, please. 877-973-7425 is the phone number if you want to be on the show, but I need to bring you the latest. What's happening in the Middle East, there seems to be an expanded war footing there, but I gotta put this in perspective for you because I need you to know who William F. Buckley was. And I'm not talking the National Review founder and the for decades leader of the conservative movement. You need to know who William F. Buckley was. This is a history lesson for you, and it is really important. William Francis Buckley was born May 30th, 1928. He died on my birthday, June 3rd, in 1985. William Buckley was an Army officer. He was in the Special Forces, and then he moved to the Central Intelligence Agency. In 1983, William F. Buckley became the bureau chief for the CIA in Beirut, after the Marine barracks in Beirut were bombed. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, we had in October of 1983, our Marines were stationed in Lebanon, and this was really the moment the situation in Lebanon began to really collapse. Lebanon used to be a beautiful country. It was considered the Paris of the Middle East, the Paris on the Mediterranean. It was a gorgeous city filled with cafes. It was multicultural. Christians, Jews, Muslims, and others coexisted. And over time, Iran started trickling terrorist Muslim sympathizers into the country, offended at the country's liberalism and offended at the cohabitation of Muslim, Jew, and Christian, among other reasons. The Americans were stationed there. We had a Marine barracks in Beirut. In October of 1983, Hezbollah blew it up. Ken Haas was the bureau chief and the political officer of the U.S. Embassy, which was also bombed. I can't remember if he was killed or removed because of the intelligence failure. But William F. Buckley became the CIA bureau chief. In fact, Hezbollah thought they had killed the CIA bureau chief. They didn't know it was Buckley. Turned out, in announcing that they had killed the CIA bureau chief, which they hadn't done, Hezbollah had a hit list of Americans. By the time William F. Buckley became the CIA bureau chief, he had a Silver Star, he had a Soldier's Medal, he had a Bronze Star with Valor, he had 2 Purple Hearts, he had a Meritorious Service Award, a Combat Infantry Badge, a Parachutist Badge, a Vietnam Gallantry Cross, Distinguished Intelligence Cross. Was ultimately awarded an Intelligence Star and an Exceptional Service Medal. In 1984, on March 16th, Hezbollah kidnapped William F. Buckley on his way to his office from his home. Now, he had been warned, and he had presumed that he had better intelligence than the military. The Israeli Mossad told him he was in danger. And there was a huge dispute between the Mossad and Israel's military intelligence directorate, which found out he was the target, and it was not conveyed to the CIA. But the American military told Buckley that he was in danger. Buckley assumed he had better intelligence. He didn't know about the Mossad intelligence because of the dispute between Mossad and Israel's military being unable to get the message to the CIA. And he began using the same route to work every day, which is something he wasn't supposed to do. Army Major General Carl Steiner told Buckley, "You've got to change your routine and get out of your house." The next day, he was kidnapped. William F. Buckley was tortured by Hezbollah for 15 months. Hezbollah kept William Buckley in a jail cell the size of a coffin. They would take him out of the coffin, and you need to hear this. You need to hear what Hezbollah did to William F. Buckley. They would tie him to a table, and they would drill into his joints. And they would smash his fingers and his toes with hammers. That's what Hezbollah did. For 15 months, they did that. 7 months after he was kidnapped, a video was released. I want to read this description to you of the video of William Buckley. Buckley was close to a gibbering wretch. His words were often incoherent. He slobbered and drooled, and most unnervingly of all, he would suddenly scream in terror, his eyes rolling helplessly and his body shaking. The CIA consensus was that he would be blindfolded and chained at the ankles and wrists and kept in a cell a little bigger than a coffin. That video came out 7 months after his kidnapping. He was already in that condition. He endured that torture for 8 more months. and then they killed him. There's some speculation maybe he had a heart attack. They killed him. They tortured him for 15 months. They used drill bits and drilled into his joints and smashed his fingers and toes with hammers and then patched him up and healed him and then did it all over again repeatedly. Today, one of the men who plotted the torture of William F. Buckley was finally killed by Israel. Ibrahim Akil was a commander of the Radwan terror unit for Hezbollah. They killed him. He was the second in command of Hezbollah. He was accused of being one of the people who plotted the Marine barracks bombing in Lebanon and the capture and torture of William Buckley. That was in 1983, ladies and gentlemen, 1983. And this man has been on the run from us ever since, and Israel got him today. Israel got him today. Hezbollah says they're at war with Israel. They have no means now to fight back. They claim they have 200,000 missiles. I don't know that they actually have 200,000 missiles. Israel is continuing to launch attacks. The Israeli strike in the southern suburbs of Beirut killed 9 people and wounded 60 others, flattened 2 apartment buildings. Israel says it was to take out top operatives of Hezbollah's forces. A Hezbollah official has confirmed Akil was killed. He was on the highest military body, the Jihad Council, was sanctioned by the United States for being involved in the terror attacks that killed more than 300 people at the embassy and the Marine barracks. We never avenged William Buckley. Today, Israel did. Hezbollah decided to launch 140 rockets into Israel yesterday. After the pagers and the walkie-talkies were blown up. Those missiles really didn't do a whole lot of damage. What's remarkable, however, are the number of people who are outraged by Israel targeting Hezbollah's pager network and walkie-talkie network, and now launching this missile that did very little damage. 60 people wounded or killed. And people are outraged. People are horrified. How dare they? Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, not super bright. She's got some thoughts on this.
Why is it wrong to blow up a terrorist pager?
Well, currently, U.S. Department of Defense guidelines actually explicitly prohibits the use of booby traps.
They fired a rocket on a soccer field. 12 kids died just playing soccer. You know, when you compare that to blowing up their pager, is that a disproportionate response?
It is important to identify that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization and that there are rules of war.
There are rules of war. Oh, the U.S. military says you shouldn't do this, so Israel shouldn't do this. War is hell. War is hell. And Israel strategically targeted Hezbollah in ways that no one else could or would. They were quite successful with it, and they have avenged the American CIA bureau chief who was tortured to death by Hezbollah in 1984 to 1985 for 15 months. They have now killed the man who plotted and executed the barracks and embassy bombings of the United States Marines and our embassy in Beirut in 1983, killing 300 people. Israel deserves our thanks. Israel deserves our thanks. Hezbollah deserves extermination. They are a terrorist organization. They are evil. They are monsters who kept a man in a jail cell the size of a coffin, chained him to a table, and drilled into his joints and smashed his fingers and toes with hammers on a regular basis for 15 months and then killed him. And all these years later, the man who orchestrated that, one of the two men who orchestrated that, the other, Nasrallah, is actually the head of Hezbollah today. And one of the two of them is now dead, not because of us, but because of Israel. Good for Israel. Thank you. Thank you, Israel. Now, I need to tell you about Hillsdale College, where you can learn a lot of American history from Hillsdale College for free. What you do is you go to erickforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, erickforhillsdale.com, and you can sign up for their podcast network. Get it in your podcast app. Look for the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. Get the lectures from there on. You get so much free of charge. You get Imprimis free of charge. It's delivered to your mailbox. It's show prep for your mind. I've been getting it since I was in law school. Erick, E-R-I-C-K, erickforhillsdale.com. One of the things that you'll learn with Hillsdale is they're not actually interested in indoctrinating you. They just want to give you the real American history out there. They're not going to lie to you. They're going to play it straight. It's fascinating history. Even though I specialize in early American constitutional history in college and then in law school, it did quite well, actually. I learned stuff from Larry Arnn's lecture series that I never explored in college. There's so much depth there, and you can get it completely for free. All you do is go to Erick, E-R-I-C-K, erickforhillsdale.com today. Sign up, get Imprimis, get the podcast network in your favorite podcast app. They offer you so much. It's so educational, and it's also very engaging. This is not boring stuff. They make it very engaging. It's entertaining. It's just great information to have. erickforhillsdale.com. Go check out Hillsdale College today, and you can support them as well. It's such a great institutional mission, educational mission. erickforhillsdale.com. Donald Trump did a rally in Long Island. New York is not actually in play, and neither Republicans nor Democrats think it is really in play. But I want to play for you this soundbite from Ron DeSantis asked about this.
We had a good run in the governor's race in New York. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I think what he's doing is laying the groundwork to have a resurgence in New York, and it may not be enough to actually win it. Part of the reason, Laura, is because a lot of the Republicans in New York have moved to my state of Florida. So we have 1 million more Republicans now than Democrats, and that's just the reality. But
Here's the issue for New York right now is that congressional seats are in play. And Donald Trump, the media wanted to get distracted, say, oh, why is Donald Trump doing this? He's an idiot. Why is he going to New York? He's not going to win New York. It's not about Donald Trump winning New York. It's about the Republicans winning the congressional seats in New York to hold the United States House of Representatives. And everyone in the media wanted to attack Donald Trump for wasting his time going to Long Island, but Republicans have a great shot at holding the House if they secure Long Island, and they've got to go win seats like that. So Trump deserves a lot of credit. You know, what's so interesting is when I said, for example, a couple of weeks ago that Kamala Harris was wasting her time going to Minnesota, it should be it should kind of actually be an indication there's a problem with her campaign. She's going to Minnesota. All the Democrats say, no. She's going because of House and Senate races. She's going for Senate races. Amy Klobuchar is not in trouble in Minnesota. There's actually no reason for her, Kamala Harris or Tim Walz, to have to campaign in Minnesota because Amy Klobuchar is not in trouble. They might be in trouble, but Klobuchar is not. Conversely, the Democrats will say, Donald Trump, what an idiot, going to New York City. No. Donald Trump is not going to win New York, and he doesn't think he's going to win New York. What Donald Trump thinks is that if he can get the House to be held by Republicans, if he wins, he'll be able to get things done. And all of the people who wanted to dismiss me over Kamala Harris in Minnesota are the ones saying Trump's an idiot. What a waste of money going to New York. No, he was very smart of Donald Trump to go to Long Island. There are a number of congressional seats in play in Long Island. The Republicans need to win them to keep control of the United States House of Representatives. And Donald Trump is doing what he needs to do to help do that. Now, side note, some Trump supporters email me or go after me on Twitter and say, you never say anything nice about him. All you do is you attack him. You hate him. For the record, I have just done an entire segment on my radio program praising Donald Trump for going to Long Island, not for himself, but for other Republicans, as a smart strategic play for himself and for them to pick up the House of Representatives. Let it be documented that on September 20th, in the year of our Lord 2024, for those of you who insist I never say anything nice or good about the man, I just did. It was a smart play on his and his team's part. Now, when we come back, it's time to talk about the fallout of Mark Robinson. Democrats put a lot of effort into getting Joe Biden out of the race. Republicans decided to circle the wagons around Mark Robinson, and it could very well cost Donald Trump North Carolina because of the fallout of the race there. I'll explain when we come back. Hello, America. Welcome. It's Erick Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, would be absolutely delighted to have you. It is an open line Friday. As always, text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Should you wish to be on the program and find out all about the show, the live stream, the YouTube, all that, we're growing the YouTube channel at EW Erickson. Everything's at EW Erickson. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you name it, all at EW Erickson. EWERICKSON. Now, I must move on to the Mark Robinson saga. Y'all, okay. Let me explain to you what I knew. You know, last year at the gathering, I endorsed Mark Walker, who former congressman was running for governor. And one of my concerns was that various Republican consultants in North Carolina told me that Robinson, there was all sorts of stuff no one had bothered to even vet when he was lieutenant governor. It just didn't matter. And, you know, this is something for those of you outside of the South, when in the South, when you think about North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, when you think about Florida, Arkansas, Alabama, you name it, lieutenant governors never really amount to much. There are exceptions. Burt Jones here in Georgia might be one of those exceptions. But by and large, lieutenant governors tend not to become the governor of the state. And it's kind of the party in power puts their guy there and no one really pays attention to him. And in North Carolina, they put Mark Robinson there. He was an evangelical reverend minister who said all the right culture warrior stuff. And they put him in as lieutenant governor, where he has been saying all sorts of stuff that the Democrats have now used against him. You need to understand that Mark Robinson was not going to win the governor's race in North Carolina anyway. And the reason he wasn't going to win is because he's 10 points behind, and that was before yesterday's scandal. Because the Democrats have been pointing out all the outlandish things that Mark Robinson has been saying or doing, that his wife got sued by the Girl Scouts, they presume, for a bounce check on cookies. They've had some sort of center for kids where they were getting federal grants. The money apparently wasn't spent on the kids. The IRS is allegedly investigating. All this stuff is coming out. And the online weirdo sex stuff, that's one of the things I was told in the primary, that there was this online weirdo sex stuff that was going to come out that people knew. That's the most I knew, was that it was online weirdo sex stuff. Turns out the online weirdo sex stuff is that Mark Robinson has fantasies about Hitler and slavery and like to spend time in adult stores watching pornography, and in particular had a thing for tranny porn. Puts a whole new meaning to the state-leaning D today. Mark Robinson into transgender porn and Hitler and slave fantasies. Now, here's the thing. You can say this is not true. You can say it's not true. And many of his supporters will. Like, I have friends of mine over in Alabama who are very insistent that all those women telling similar stories about Roy Moore, and they all seem to look kind of alike, They all had similar stories that it's all made up. It's all BS. It's not true. You can't believe it. I had a buddy of mine text me yesterday. It absolutely denying it was true. Whether you want to say it was true or not, it's what the voters believe. And you had 9 women saying that Roy Moore had done these things to them, and they all seemed to look a little bit alike. They all had a similar pattern of conduct, and maybe it surely was a well-orchestrated story. You can say it was Christine Blasey Ford, whatever you want to say about it, but there was a pattern. Here's the difference with Mark Robinson compared to Roy Moore, even if you want to deny the Roy Moore stuff. The difference is that this was Mark Robinson's personal email address before he even got into politics. So unless the Democrats invented a time machine and went back decades to plant evidence to make Mark Robinson look bad in the anticipation he might run for office one day, it was him. Now, you can also say that, well, that was 20, 30 years ago that all this stuff happened. We're going back to the 90s. This is disgusting. People are able to grow and change, all that. That's fine. You can make that case. But good luck selling it to the voters. And here's one of the biggest problems is evangelicals, when they become MAGA-gelicals, they lose all sense of discernment. If you can say Jesus with 5 syllables, so it's not Jesus, but it is Jesus, the MAGA-gelicals will rush to embrace you as one of their own because you said the magic word. You said Jesus with 5 syllables. You must be a real one, and God is going to protect you, and he's going to surround you. What do they pray for? A hedge of protection. He's going to give you a hedge of protection. Oh, Lord Jesus, give Mark Robinson a hedge of protection against his enemies who will vilify him by retroactive time travel to plant pornography and Hitler fantasies. Please, oh Lord, Jesus, protect him with a hedge of protection. Well, you've screwed yourselves. You're not only not going to protect Mark Robinson, who was losing by 10 points before this, you might cost Donald Trump North Carolina's 16 electoral college votes. Why? Because no one's going to give Mark Robinson a penny now. He was already out of money, and the Trump campaign has to spend extra money in North Carolina now because the Mark Robinson campaign has no more ground game to offer to help supplement the Trump efforts. So Mark Robinson's refusal to get out, and by the way, he could have dropped out by midnight last night, no harm, no foul, and he didn't. So him staying in the race, you and your hedge of protection aren't going to do anything to help Mark Robinson, and you might cost Donald Trump. And this is a pattern with these people. Some people yesterday got mad at me and said, Erickson, you mean you knew about Mark Robinson and you said nothing? This is your fault. Yeah, way to blame me for knowing the creepy online sex rumors without any substance. You're the people who decided to listen to this guy, knowing, by the way, everyone knew in the primary, the Girl Scouts that sued his wife for the bounced checks, and the state of North Carolina had shut down his child daycare program because they weren't spending the money they said they were. All these other problems. Somehow this is my fault? No, it's not my fault. You people vetted this guy and decided, oh, he's one of us. He says Jesus. And here's your proof on this. Is in 2022, I told Republicans every bit of dirt about Herschel Walker in the Republican primary in Georgia. Every bit of it was known and in public before the general election. And you know what the MAGA-gelicals say? No, Donald Trump told us he's legit. He's reformed. That was old news. That was in the past. You've got to be able to forgive people, Erickson. You've got to let it go. Get out of your never Trump mindset. Donald Trump says Herschel Walker's the man, therefore he's the man. And he lost. And you know why he lost? Because every damn thing I told you was going to come out came out. But it didn't matter because Donald Trump laid hands on him and the hedge of protection sprung up around him because he could say Jesus. And he lost. It's not just Donald Trump's MAGA supporters. It is uniquely the MAGA-gelicals, the evangelicals who support Donald Trump, who have outsourced all discernment from the Holy Spirit to Donald Trump and believe that Trump himself plants the hedge of protection and surrounds these people with an army of angels. Mark Walker was a minister in North Carolina, but couldn't say Jesus with 5 syllables. He didn't get Donald Trump's endorsement. In fact, all of the Republican consultants I've talked to have said that the reason they didn't decide to push this stuff is because it was very clear, one, Donald Trump was going to endorse, and two, it would have done no good. So it was better to keep their mouths shut and hope no one else found out about what they knew about Mark Robinson. Too late. The only one to blame here is Mark Robinson, who could have done the right thing last night. But here's the galling part of this, is that some of these supporters are now out there saying Republicans need to stand by their man. You threw Roy Moore under the bus. Now you're throwing Mark Robinson under the bus. Democrats will do whatever they can to win. Yes, you're damn right. Democrats will throw their candidates out and put new people in because they want to win. Joe Biden would like a word with those of you who think the Democrats circle the wagons and refuse to push people out of the race. Jim McGreevey of New Jersey would love to talk to you and find those Democrats who circle the wagons and refuse to push their bad candidates out of office and instead fight, because you people want to fight all the way to your loss instead of shoving a guy out the door. I mean, it is appalling to me that we just like 3-4 weeks ago saw Joe Biden get shoved aside by the Democrats to improve their chances of winning. And the MAGA supporters of Mark Robinson are like, we need to stand by our man. Democrats, they stand by their man. Democrats would never throw Mark Robinson out if he was theirs. He'd stand by and fight as Joe Biden's body goes sailing past you out the window. But it's not just him. It's Carrie Lake. It's Dr. Oz. It's Herschel Walker. It's Bernie Moreno in Ohio, who there were credible rumors about Bernie Moreno and his online habits with young men. But nope, we're going to double down on him because the J.D. Vance and Donald Trump say he's their guy. Every time you outsource your vetting of candidates to Donald Trump, it blows up in your face. Going to lose the new North Carolina governor's mansion. And again, to be clear, Mark Robinson was never going to win. He was never going to win. He was 10 points behind before this stuff broke. He's going to be further behind. The problem is, here's why this stuff matters now, is because the next stuff the Democrats are going to drop is the financial scandals. Because there are financial scandals. There is, how did he spend this federal grant money in his business that got shut down by North Carolina? There's the bouncing checks to the Girl Scouts purportedly for cookies. There's a landlord dispute with a disabled landlord. Now, all of that stuff was known in the primaries. People thought, it's so long ago, it's no big deal. You compound that with the Hitler fantasies and the transgender porn and the porn shop visits to watch pornography. Good luck making your case. It's going to bleed North Carolina dry of money. Donors are going to say, I'm not putting another penny in, which means Donald Trump is going to have to direct resources from Nevada and Arizona and Georgia and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin to double down on North Carolina. So it's going to cost Donald Trump money that could be spent elsewhere because they nominated a bad candidate who behind the scenes people knew. And by the way, Michael Whatley was one of the people who said Robinson's the guy. And now he's at the RNC and no longer having to deal with the fallout of North Carolina. I wonder what he knew about Robinson privately. You got played. Mark Robinson should have done the good thing and gotten out last night. Donald Trump should have called him last night, offered him a job to get him out of the race. I don't know that happened. Maybe he tried and didn't. But this is now going to force Donald Trump to spend money in a state he should have locked down. That's the problem. Haley Barbour, governor of Mississippi, before he was governor of Mississippi, was the RNC chair. And he had a strategy that worked very successfully. You want to win a state for the presidency or for the Senate, you win it for the governor's race because governors can build and invest in ground games that everyone else can use. And instead, in North Carolina, the Republicans are not going to get the governor's mansion. And not only are they not going to get the governor's mansion, they're going to dry up money going into North Carolina because of the Mark Robinson scandal. And it's just the beginning of the drip, drip, drip of scandals that could suppress independent Republican-leaning votes and cost this state's 16 electoral college votes for Donald Trump. Why? Because Donald Trump and his supporters, yet again, failed to discern that this candidate was a good candidate. Why? Because the candidate engaged in the performative leg humping of Donald Trump and decided to give Jesus 5 syllables in his 2-syllable name to prove he was authentically a magagelical. He was a prayer warrior preacher who hated gay marriage and preached inflammatory sermons and gave great speeches, some of which I've even played on this program, in defense of traditional marriage and traditional culture. And all of that doesn't matter now because the man liked trans porn and Hitler fantasies, and additionally has all sorts of financial baggage that's going to come out, which all of this in the primaries, there were rumors about, but people didn't care because Donald Trump said he was the guy, just like Herschel Walker, just like Dr. Oz, just like Carrie Lake, just like Joe Kent, just like Bernie Moreno. Drip, drip, drip. And we wonder why we keep losing. No, it has nothing to do with the Democrats standing by their men. They throw their guys out. We don't. We double down. And then we get to play victim. When really, it's our side that keeps picking the bad candidates. Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the phones, it is an open line Friday. You still got to get past the call screener. Well, Joe Biden has done it again. He's managed to, be public and put his foot in his mouth. This is Joe Biden.
And by the way, I've never once spoken to the chairman of the Fed since I became president.
He's never once spoken to the chairman of the Fed since he became president. That's Joe Biden. Here's a problem is multiple videos have come forward of Chairman Jerome Powell in the White House sitting in the Oval Office with Joe Biden. And Joe Biden says he's never talked to him. So White House has had to spring into damage control mode. Here's Jared Bernstein.
The president, in his remarks about an hour ago, said that he had never spoken with the Fed chairman since he's been in the White House. That's obviously not true. He met in the Oval Office in 2022. Can you clarify the president's remarks there and why did he say that?
Sure. The president was saying that he has not spoken to Chair Powell about interest rates. He did not pressure Powell and has never done so. And in fact, in the speech today, that was in the section about Fed independence and about the importance of respecting and honoring that independence. It's obviously a stark contrast with our predecessor.
Wow. So he says he never did, and yet here it is, Joe Biden. Turns out, actually he did. It's just, it's different. This app, every time they put him in front of us, it's like Kamala Harris. Every time you put her out there, she engages in these word salads that make no sense, and Joe Biden continuing these sorts of gaffes. You know, by the way, the press corps is actually mad at Joe Biden because he's decided to shut them out. He's got a big meeting of world leaders coming up, and he's decided he's going to shut them out of the conversation. They're not going to be there. Today, Jill Biden kicked off the cabinet meeting. She decided to sit in with the cabinet. It is her first cabinet meeting since 2023, and she decided she would be leading the cabinet. They're not even pretending anymore. The guy is just clearly not well. Joe Biden is clearly not well. And Jill Biden is there. Now, the purpose of the cabinet meeting, you should know, is to speed up the Biden agenda. He wants more reform done. You know, I played you the clip yesterday of Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was on CNBC, and they were kind of laughing at him that only 7 high-speed car chargers have been installed with federal grant money since the Inflation Reduction Act funded it. And he was like, well, there have been 150 some odd thousand that have been put in. Yeah, those were the ones with private money, the private sector doing them. The actual money from the federal government to put them in places you otherwise can't get them, non-existent. Got 7 of them. He's like, we should have our goal completed by 2030. No, you're not. No, you're not. The Biden administration has done something that Donald Trump did not do. The Biden administration decided that they could trust their own bureaucracy. It's something no Republican would ever do. Republicans inherently do not trust the bureaucracy. Republicans don't trust the bureaucracy because the bureaucracy is out to get the GOP. So you never trust the Republican. You never trust the bureaucracy. You don't trust the bureaucracy because the bureaucracy is essentially Democrat plants. Something I think people don't understand is that when a Democrat leaves the White House, his political appointees are allowed to fill bureaucratic slots at the same pay grade and embed themselves into the federal bureaucracy. They do this so that they can obstruct the incoming Republican agenda. Barack Obama had a lot of people in his administration who stayed in the bureaucracy. The result was that Donald Trump did not trust the bureaucracy. So Donald Trump relied on his political appointees within the administration to perform his agenda in a way he wanted to block the Democratic processes, to block the Democrats from inside the bureaucracy. Joe Biden decided he could rely on the bureaucracy. And in relying on the bureaucracy, he's undermined himself. And so this cabinet meeting that Jill Biden is presiding at today with Joe Biden is designed to crack the whip and essentially to say that, you guys, we've only got a few more months in office. You need to get a run-in with this stuff. Now, let's listen to a little bit of Jill Biden's remarks. This is from MSNBC a short time ago.
Notably, Jill Biden, Dr. Biden, the First Lady, in attendance today as well, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important and interesting cabinet meeting because of who is not there, which was Vice President Harris, obviously, who has her campaign schedule. But then because of the spotlight that the First Lady did have, she talked about the fact that sometimes the White House, in her words, surprises you. And for somebody who has worked on women's health issues for her whole career, frankly, as a teacher, but also as the Second Lady and now as the First Lady, she said one of the things that struck her the most was the inequities in medical research, funding for medical research for women. So this is an important priority of hers that she had the opportunity to at this cabinet meeting to spotlight. And as you had that great interview with her, Peter, talking about the fact that, yes, a burden may have been lifted from her husband's shoulder in one respect with the end of his campaign, but there's still a lot of work that they both intend to do during their last few months in office here.
Now, Joe Biden was in attendance. He actually was presiding over the meeting, contrary to some of the spin that Jill Biden was in charge. She was there to promote this agenda, but the cabinet can only move so fast, and they don't have a lot of cutthroat bureaucrats in charge of the cabinet. One of the ones who is Jennifer Granholm, who actually knows how to fight in bureaucracy. She's been pushing these environmental regulations as quick as she possibly can in order to get them done. And they know if Trump gets elected, he'll be able to roll them back. Again, this goes back to Donald Trump campaigning in Long Island yesterday. He campaigned in Long Island not for himself, but for Republican members of Congress, trying to hold the Congress. And he needs to do it. He needs to keep the House of Representatives under Republican control to get anything done. Now, the House of Representatives right now is having problems because they've got their spending resolution. A government shutdown happens October 1st unless there's a spending package. Republicans attempted to pursue the SAVE Act, and of course, Republicans are their own worst enemy. So let me give you the breakdown here. Speaker Johnson tied the SAVE Act to the continuing resolution. But in the process of tying the SAVE Act, he had a number of congressmen who say, well, you don't really mean it. And because you don't really mean it, I'm not going to vote for it. I follow the logic along with me here. Some Republican conservative members of Congress decided to kill it because they say they support it, but even though the Speaker of the House put it forward, they decided he didn't really support it. It was for show. And since he didn't really mean it, they were going to vote against it. They had the opportunity to pass it. What they essentially are saying is that if it comes time for the government to shut down, Johnson's going to cut a deal without the SAVE Act. And he probably is. Republican members of Congress do not want a government shutdown. I am totally fine with a government shutdown. Just so you understand, I prefer a government shutdown because if the government is shut down, they can't screw up our lives. So I would prefer it. Republicans, however, think it's bad optics to have a government shutdown, and the majority of them do. So here's the problem for the Speaker. The Speaker of the House does not have the votes to pass a continuing resolution with the SAVE Act. He does have the votes to pass a continuing resolution without the SAVE Act. He tried to pass it with Republican votes. Republicans refused to support the SAVE Act. So now the Speaker's going to try to keep the House open, because here's his problem. There are enough Republican votes in the House of Representatives to ignore the Speaker's wishes and fund the government with the Democrats. So either the Speaker Johnson is going to lead them towards a path of keeping the government open, or they're going to let Hakeem Jeffries lead them, and these Republicans will go along with it. Remember, they're through their primaries now. They're not scared about Republican voters anymore. They're scared about independent voters. So it doesn't matter what Johnson does. He's got to come up with a plan to keep the government open by October 1st, or the Democrats are going to come up with a plan. And enough Republicans will support the Democrats. Johnson's in a no-win situation. Again, I really like Mike Johnson. He really is the first evangelical Speaker of the House. He's the first authentically pro-life Speaker of the House. We've had others who've, Paul Ryan was too, but a pro-life evangelical Speaker of the House, a true believer in the conservative movement. Mike Johnson, he's the first. He's the first guy outside of the Republican establishment to become Speaker. And he's been sabotaged by his own wing of the party, the hardcore populist conservatives who are so used to blowing up leadership, they haven't wanted to cooperate with leadership, and he's got a job to do. He is the dog that caught the car and has regretted it ever since, I suspect. The government's going to be funded. I am totally happy to have a government shutdown. I kind of like the idea of a government shutdown. The reality, however, is that it's not going to happen, maybe for a day or two. But Senate Republicans don't want the government shut down. A majority of House Republicans don't want the government shut down. None of the Democrats want the government shut down. So the Democrats have the votes. Republicans in the House can shape a continuing resolution with Mike Johnson in solidarity and extract some concessions from the Democrats. But they're not going to get everything they want. And so those who say we have to oust the Speaker if he doesn't shut down the government, okay, you may oust him anyway. If you win, you're probably going to be so excited by a win that you're going to let him stay as Speaker. But if you lose, I mean, there's a real concern that Republicans will get blamed. It will suck the energy out of the election. So what do? I'll tell you my preference. My preference is that Republicans make this a hill to die on. My preference is that Republicans actually decide, you know what, we're okay with the government shutting down. We want the SAVE Act, and we will keep the government shut down until you give us the SAVE Act. It's what Republicans did with sequestration when Barack Obama was president. They just shut it all down. And they said, until you give us this, we're not opening back up. That's our starting and ending negotiating position. And it worked. It's naive, I realize, they say. You're going to have Senate Republicans undercut them. The problem with my position, that I'm telling you what I want to do. The problem is the Democrats only need about a dozen Republicans to sabotage the effort. And the Speaker of the House knows, however much you or I might not like it, the Democrats have the Republicans to sabotage the effort. So the question for you and me is, what can the Speaker do to salvage this operation and make a go of it in some way? And that is hold the line on Republicans and do what you can, work with the Senate Republicans. They're going to keep the government open. Let's extract some concession as best we can. And I don't know what that concession is. All I know is my preferred solution will be sabotaged by about 10 Republicans who will side with Hakeem Jeffries and give the Democrats what they want, whether or not Mike Johnson wants them. And to be clear, it is not Mike Johnson's fault when you're herding the cats. Sometimes the cats wind up hurting you and hurting you in the process. Now, I got to tell you about Vision Computer. Vision Computer is my family's computer company for our son's gaming PC. They did a brilliant job making a great computer for our son, and we get their great service with it. So we can, for example, call Vision Computers at 404-COMPUTE, and 15 seconds or less, my son gets the answer to all of his computer problems. I never have to be his tech support. Now, let's say you are a small businessman and you have computers. You need to keep them up to date, and you didn't buy it from Vision Computers. If you bought it from Vision Computers, their tech support comes for free. Otherwise, $179 a year. Let's say you are an independent contractor, you work from your home, you can't afford computer downtime because you got to pay your bills. For $179 a year, Vision can be your in-house IT department. Can you afford an IT guy? If you're an independent contractor, you're working out of your house, can you afford an IT guy as well? No. But for $179 a year, Vision can be your IT guy. And so Vision, you can offload all your concerns, your email support, your printer support, everything can come through Vision Computers. All you have to do is call them at 404-COMPUTE. 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you. You're going to save even more money. You can also go to visioncomputers.com. They can build you a computer, and that tech support comes for free. But if you have a computer not from Vision, you need their tech support, 15 seconds or less, you can get the answer to anything that plagues your computer. They can even remote in and fix your computer, giving you the peace of mind to be as productive as possible. Those of you who are independent contractors, you're freelancers, this is perfect for you. For $179 a year, you can get your own in-house IT department. And if it's a business expense, well, think about your taxes. Visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Give them a call. CNN, I think they started to make some sort of shift where they tried to recognize that they had problems with the right. They were putting on more right-wing voices. They've got a few. Scott Jennings is one of the very few they're now in. But what I noticed is they've gone back to the habit of putting the one Republican against 5 other people. And what they do is they have 1 or 2 people who say, well, I'm a Republican too. Even though they hate everything the Republican Party stands for, they can say, look, it was 2 against 2, Republican against Democrat. It was Republican against, no, it was 5 Trump haters against 1 guy willing to defend Trump and the base. And this is it over anti-Semitism. Boy, they aren't having it.
I respect you very much in the work you've done. You cannot deny what we have seen in America since October the 7th, and it has only to do with one thing. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and there are people who feel like now is the time to let it out, and it is ugly.
It is ugly, and that's why we shouldn't nominate a president who dines with white supremacists, who makes one of his key allies.
If you want to make apologies for it on the left, go ahead.
I'm not going to make apologies. No, you are denying that it exists on the right. You are stumping for Trump in a way that tries to ignore that he himself dined with a white supremacist. He's cozied up to Marjorie Jewish.
You're making a tactical argument, and everybody sitting at this table knows where the source of anti-Semitism is in this country. It is not on the right. It is not.
What a denial!
An extreme statement. It is not on the right.
That's an extreme.
An extreme statement. They say.
Wait, did Trump? No, hold on. Did Trump dine with Nick Fuentes? Is Nick Fuentes a white supremacist?
He did dine with Nick Fuentes.
Is he a white supremacist?
He should not have done that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so now we know that it is not only.
So you're saying one person.
Don't you love that? So that's Sarah Longwell, who was never anything other than a lobbyist and has reinvented herself as to some leading voice against Donald Trump, against Scott Jennings. And yeah, by the way, the moral of the story here as well is Trump should avoid these people. But none of these people wanted to acknowledge the level of anti-Semitism on the left. They want to make it all about Donald Trump. And that's part of the problem here with the left is they can't acknowledge the problems on their side. Guys like Scott, he's willing to say Trump shouldn't have done that. I'm willing to say Nick Fuentes is a horrible human being, and Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the like should avoid him like the plague. Donald Trump should avoid Laura Loomer. Kellyanne Conway was on TV yesterday saying there's no way Laura Loomer should be anywhere near Donald Trump, let alone on his plane. And there's a problem there. But nobody on the left wants to hold the left accountable. Nobody on the left wants to say the anti-Semitism on the left is bad. Everyone on the right is told stay away from Nick Fuentes. No one on the left says stay away from Louis Farrakhan or Al Sharpton. By the way, that's one reason there are strains within the Republican Party now that double down on hanging out with people like that, because nobody's going to tell me what to do. The problem is you should just recognize for yourself there are detestable people, some on the left, some on the right, but what we should do is the left should regulate the left and the right should regulate the right and not have the left dictate who is acceptable on the right and the right dictate who is acceptable on the left. But disproportionately, the media and the left want to dictate who's a good Republican or not. Scott Jennings, great Republican, willing to put up with a 5-against-1 panel on CNN and score some real points, pointing out that the left is where the anti-Semitism is festering these days, and it should be called out. And I would notice not even that good Republican who hates Donald Trump was willing to call out the left-wing anti-Semitism. I bring up character. Someone inevitably, as someone just emailed and says, well, you know, God uses deeply flawed people too. David, Solomon as great examples. And I reply back, yes, he also used Judas Iscariot. But do we really want to go down that road? People are willing to justify whatever they want to justify, and the candidates they want to justify. Character doesn't matter because God used David and Solomon in the Bible. Character doesn't matter because God used Judas Iscariot. So we can pick someone who would be perfectly happy to betray our Lord and Savior because character doesn't matter, or God uses deeply flawed people. You can twist it to justify whatever you want to justify as a way to avoid grappling with the point that if we did a better job picking candidates who had good character, it would be one less attack for the Democrats to go against us and would open voters to being more willing to vote for us by saying, you know what, instead of the creepy pervy person on the left versus the creepy pervy person on the right, we're going to do the creepy pervy person on the left versus the normal family man on the right who you don't have to worry is a closet deviant. But if you want to say it doesn't matter, we should nominate Judas Iscariot because I have a feeling God's going to use him in an amazing way. I mean, people can just decide to justify anything. I mean, as the Bible says, even the demons can quote scripture. I don't know. Some people don't want to even recognize the point because they realize it would implicate their own behaviors and justifications. I am frustrated that here we are in this situation. Donald Trump could lose North Carolina because Republicans decided they wanted to go with the reverend who could say Jesus with 5 syllables and hump Donald Trump's leg, and now it's blown up in their faces. It just deeply frustrates me, and people will double down and justify it and say, well, you know, God used David too. Yeah, he did. But you know what also? You're not God. Now, let me tell you about Swiss America, because as interest rates may be coming down, we've still got some concerns in the market, and Swiss America wants to protect you from the secret war on cash. Between banks collapsing and everything else out there, you may want to reach out to them. They've been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years. They've been warning people about their secret war on cash, the government's secret war on cash, not theirs. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash, you probably want to get their report. It is free. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. You can get the report. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. I have read it. You can get it for free by mentioning my name when you call or text. You don't even have to talk to a live human being. You just text them, Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency. It is spreading. Read The Secret War on Cash. All you do, text my name, Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. The phone number here is 877-973-7425. Real quick, for those of you in the metro Atlanta area, my buddy David Nicholas is one of the guys who handles some of my money, and Nicholas Wealth Management. He and I are going to do an event together October 3rd about the state of the markets and the impact of politics in the election. It's going to be in Marietta. If you're interested in learning more, you can go to nicholaswealth.com. There is limited seating for the event. You can go to nicholaswealth.com. It's October 3rd. It's a free event. Lightly catered event. So go to nicholaswealth.com if you want to find out more on that. Now, there is some breaking news that I have got to get to. Israeli sources are telling the media that the entire senior command of Hezbollah's Radwan force was eliminated in the missile strike they conducted on Beirut today. Roughly 20 commanders are believed to have been killed in this strike. That is happening now. Israel believes it has wiped out the top military commanders of the Radwan Brigade, including Ibrahim Akil, who was responsible for the bombing of the Marine barracks in Lebanon and the capture and torture and death of William F. Buckley, the CIA bureau chief. He's been out and about all that long. Just remarkable. 241 people were killed in the Marine barrack bombing in October of 1983, and the embassy killed 63 in April of 1983. The guy's been on the run ever since, sanctioned. It's a black eye to the CIA, frankly, that Israel was able to get the guy, but at least the guy is dead. Now it turns out that about 20 people, all of whom were senior leaders, have been eliminated in that. Now, I saw this on Twitter, and I need to let you know it's on Twitter, and I wasn't sure it was real. A friend of mine sent it to me. Turns out that it is very real. And I'm going to read you. This is from an account, AP from New York. Don't know who this person is. This person is Jewish. They have an Israeli flag in their bio, but this is kind of impressive. Most people don't know that one of Israel's most secretive and elite military intelligence teams is comprised of soldiers on the autism spectrum. The Roim Rashak, meaning looking ahead program, part of Unit 9900 in the Israeli Defense Force, stands out not only within the IDF, but across the globe as the only military unit of its kind filled with soldiers on the autism spectrum. These soldiers possess exceptional abilities in analyzing satellite images and interpreting maps, skills that are essential for defending Israel's borders and ensuring the safety of its population. Unit 9900, with its specialized intelligence role, uses geospatial information to monitor changes in Israel's landscape and potential threats. The soldiers in the program are some of the most talented in the field. Their unique perceptual abilities allow them to focus intensely on satellite imagery, detecting small details that might otherwise go unnoticed. These abilities are not just helpful, they're life-saving, providing the IDF with critical intelligence that powers Israel's national security. What makes these soldiers even more remarkable is their personal dedication to serving the country. Many could have been exempt from military service due to their diagnosis, but they chose to enlist, driven by a deep sense of responsibility and patriotism. The motivation is seen by their peers. Most soldiers in the RR program choose to extend their service beyond the mandatory term, reflecting their commitment. Unit 9900 and its RR program is another example of Israel's ability to turn challenges into strength. Though their exceptional focus and analytical ability, these soldiers, through their exceptional focus and analytical abilities, these soldiers play an important role in safeguarding the country's borders, ensuring that every inch of land is meticulously watched and protected. By embracing neurodiversity, Israel has tapped into a resource that might otherwise be overlooked. The unit not only proves Israel's innovation, but its dedication. The soldiers in Unit 9900's RR program are a testament to their resilience and determination. So these soldiers all have autism, and they examine the regular recurring satellite imagery to see if there are any changes at the border, any changes on the map, any depressions that show up. Because, if you're staring at high-resolution satellite maps, if, for example, Hamas digs a tunnel, it could cause settling of the ground above. And these soldiers, with their autism and their unique focus, can see that sort of settling. And it's kind of remarkable that happens. Wow. Well done. This week has been a very big win for Israel. Now, the situation, though, continues to devolve in the Middle East. But one of the things that I think has gone unnoticed and unsaid is something I want to say on radio with you guys. Israel has been able to build relationships with a number of Muslim countries in the Middle East. If you're a regular listener of this program, you know where I grew up. I'll spare the punchline for another day on this one. You know I grew up in the Middle East, and you've probably heard me say when I grew up, Israel was not on the map. Literally, Israel was not on the map in my classrooms. Every bit of Israel was cut out of the textbooks, cut out of the encyclopedias. It was redacted if it couldn't be cut out. The maps had to have the label Palestine pasted on them, and it was pasted. It wasn't printed. It was pasted on a piece of paper and stuck over, and the word Israel blacked out. Phones could not dial Israel from the United Arab Emirates where I lived. You couldn't go to Israel. You couldn't return from Israel. I have been to more countries than states and have never been to Israel because growing up, weren't allowed to. You couldn't get back in the country. In fact, Israel, to this day, in some cases, will give you a piece of paper with the passport stamp that you can remove from your passport if you're going into a Middle Eastern country that has problems with Israel. But at the end of the Trump administration with the Abraham Accords, Israel began to have peace with Egypt, with Bahrain, with Jordan, which had fairly well had good relationships with Egypt and Jordan, but now Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates, with Oman. And they've been working on a deal with Saudi Arabia that has fallen through under pressure a lot of times from other Arab nations and from constituencies that hate the Jews. But Saudi Arabia is a mortal enemy of Iran. Saudi Arabia's animosity towards Iran is twofold. One is religious. The Saudis are the religious capital with Mecca and Medina, and they're Sunni Muslims. The Iranians are Shiite Muslims. You can, in your mind, in a nutshell, think of the Catholic-Protestant divide, but it's much more than that. And so there is a strong religious animosity. But there is also a geopolitical animosity as well, because Iran, coupled into the religious ties, really would love to control Saudi Arabia because of Mecca. And Iran also has imperial ambitions that Saudi Arabia doesn't have. Now, why does Iran have imperial ambitions? You got to know your history. Up until 1979, what was Iran's name? Persia, the home of the Persian Empire. The Shah of Iran was the Shah of the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire had collapsed. More and more Persia was called Iran, but it's Persian. And Iran, the Ayatollahs of Iran, have maintained the imperial ambitions of the Persian Empire over time. And they covet the Fertile Crescent region that includes Iraq and Jordan and Syria. They covet Saudi Arabia because of Mecca. And they see Saudi Arabia and its money and its ties to the West as an enemy. So Saudi Arabia is looking at this situation and looking at what Israel has been able to pull off. And you know and I know there are conversations happening right now between Saudi Arabia and Israel. One of the things that you may not appreciate is that the Mossad is very, very good. The Mossad is probably the best intelligence agency on planet Earth. In the Middle East, the Saudis also have very good intelligence. In fact, the odds are Saudi intelligence has been feeding information to the Israeli intelligence, because the enemy of our enemy is our friend, and the Saudis have way more in common with Israel than they do with Iran. And Iran has been trying to internally undermine the Saudi government. So by Israel pulling this off, not just wiping out the top 20 military leaders of this Hezbollah brigade, but blowing up their CBs, compromising their cell phone service, blowing up their pagers, blowing up their weapons depots in southern Lebanon, Israel is actually doing a favor to Saudi Arabia. And I assure you, though it is not getting mentioned, there are friendly conversations happening between the Saudis and the Israelis. And that's the other benefit of what Israel has done. Now, let's step back and look at the reaction to the anti-Semites in this country, including in the Biden administration, who are furious with what Israel did. The reality is Iran has compromised too much of the Biden administration. And what is so frustrating to me is how the The media has not wanted to cover how compromised the Biden administration is. There was actually a report out the other day from the Inspector General of the State Department that the State Department mishandled one of its Iranian envoys dealing with the Iranian nuclear deal, and intelligence possibly got into the hands of the Iranians, among other things. And the fact that the media is as quiet on this as possible does make me wonder, is the media as compromised with Iranian sympathizers as the Biden administration is? I actually do wonder this. Are major media institutions as compromised by Iran as the Biden administration? Because the fact is, there was an explosive story about just how compromised the Biden administration is, and people at other media outlets barely gave it any notice or attention. But there are Iranian spies inside the Biden administration, and there are Iranian sympathizers inside the Biden administration, and they don't like Saudi Arabia, and they don't like Israel. And it is not a coincidence in my mind that so much of the Biden administration national security program has hated Israel and Saudi Arabia concurrently, while also trying to push for an Iranian deal. It is a tip-off in my mind that the Iranian sympathizers are in charge. So Israel refuses to let the Biden administration know about the pager and walkie-talkie attack, and the Biden administration is furious they've been caught off guard. I wonder if the Saudis were told or if they helped. One of the silver linings in the incompetence and compromise of the Biden administration is the Saudis and Israelis are working together like they never have before. And that's actually a good thing for the stability of the Middle East, because the more we can contain and put off Iran, the better it is for every single person on planet Earth. The Iranian regime is a terrorist regime that funds terrorist proxies around the world, and they've gotten a horrible black eye. And side note, it appears that the Israelis have so compromised Iranian intelligence that they were able to pick up the order for the pagers because it traveled through Iran for funding, and the Israelis were somehow able to steer it to an Iranian shell company in Hungary that sold them pagers laced with explosives. So now Hezbollah does not trust Iran. Iran does not trust Hezbollah. And Hezbollah has had major leaders wiped out by Israel in the last 12 hours. Things in the Middle East are going to continue apace, and we're headed into our weekend here. So we'll see what Iran decides to do in response. Now, I got to tell you about my friends at Eden Pure and their Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them for less than $200. You save $200. All you do is go to EdenPureDeals.com. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm is an air purifier, and it's filterless. You don't have a filter subscription. It uses electrostatic plates that you can clean out. You don't have to get that filter subscription. And then it wipes out odors. It generates ozone. The ozone goes into the cracks and crevices, the nooks and crannies where the odor ions are, latches onto the ions. Ozone is attracted to the ions, and it wipes them out. It destroys the ions when they come into contact, and so you get rid of any odor. You got dirty diapers, wipes them out. Litter box odors, wipes them out. Smoke odors, wipes them out. Musty odors, wipes them out. Cooking odors, wipes them out. You can get 3 of them for your upstairs, your downstairs, your basement, your travel bag. I mean, you can hold it in your hand. It's small. I used it the other day in a hotel room. Keep one in my travel bag. That's how small and lightweight it is. You can get one for your RV if you got an RV. Leave it there. Wherever you need them, they work and they wipe out odors. EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Erick3, ERICK3. You get 3 of them. You save $200. EdenPureDeals.com. Look, it's the weekend. You can fire up your hate mail all you want. I'm not going to see it. In Georgia, the Republican majority on the state elections board decided to pass a rule to hand count all ballots after polls close on election night. These are the people who have bellyached about how long it takes to count votes, and now they want us to do a hand count of ballots in the state when we have Scantron machines. We print the ballots. The ballots have their QR codes scanned. I mean, this is just the conspiratorial fringe of the GOP shooting themselves in the foot. You know, back in the day, Republicans wanted electronic machines because they were afraid in Fulton County, Georgia, where there continue to be problems, that the Democrats would count the votes by hand and hand it to Joe Biden or to the Democrat. Now we're going back to that. Can we just have like paper ballots with charcoal sticks, or maybe we prick our finger and we put blood on the hole that we want for? This is so stupid. I listen, and I've got friends on the state elections board, but you people are stupid and are embarrassing yourselves, because here's why. It is a well-known rule of law that you're going to get smacked down for here less than 60 days before the election, changing the rule. Now, I realize I'm just an election lawyer, so God forbid you listen to an election lawyer who knows election law, and you say, well, the Democrats did. Yes, the Democrats went to court around the country and got judges to change the rules, and they did so well before 60 days out. You've waited until the last damn minute to try to change the rules for an election in Georgia. You've gotten smacked down by the Attorney General in Georgia because y'all are stupid. You're just stupid. You're very smart people, but you're stupid when it comes to this because you've decided not to listen to the people who know the law. I realize by virtue of you being put on the state elections board, you've decided that you're a genius when it comes to elections. No, you're not. No, you're not. You actually have lawyers. Election law is a specialized election field. It's not for everyone. I've won many election law cases because the lawyer against me didn't know the law. And that's what everybody's missing. Whether you think 2020 was stolen or not, here's what happened. Democrats hired election lawyers, and Donald Trump hired DUI lawyers, and they went to court and lost because they didn't know election law anywhere in the country. That's basically what's happening here. The state of Georgia State Election Board has, with less than 60 days to go, decided to upend how elections are conducted in Georgia. They're going to get beat down by a court. They should. They should probably be thrown off the State Elections Board for being so stupid to do something like that. You're performing, again, it's like all these people who go down in flames. You leg hump for Donald Trump. You don't actually care about the rule of law. And now you're probably undermining the election in Georgia and the integrity of the election. And that's actually going to hurt Donald Trump. Please stop trying to think you're outsmarting everyone, because you're just being stupid.